guys, Garry here. Thanks for checking in. So, small project I made. Thought you might be interested. We needed a target stand. We're doing a class this weekend called Fish, Fighting in Someone's House. It is just what it sounds like when fights inside a building. Could be your house, could be someone else's house, whatever. Could be the house that Ruth built. But fact is, it's a non-ballistic indoor shoot house, and we are going to be doing a bunch of force on paper. We can put whatever we want anywhere on the walls. This is plywood. But for putting things three-dimensionally, not on the outside perimeter, we needed some type of portable target stand we could put in the middle. And Tremis Dynamics happens to make the best fucking target stand known to man for live fire. And it is steel. It'll hold a 2x4 for a steel target or furring strips for cardboard targets, but it's got a pretty large base for holding the steel targets. It's heavy and will scratch the painted floor in the shoot house, I'm sure. But I didn't want to have that big base because once you put a couch and a bed and an office desk and shit in a room, those big bases are now where people are needing to move. So I was trying to not get my target stand in the way of having the class. So I was like, I need something smaller and lightweight that will handle non-live fire. So we made some out of PVC, and when it's done, it ends up looking like this. And it's out of frame because it's taller than I am, like, you know, people are. But the size that it is, I used a 10-foot section of half-inch PVC and made a target stand out of that. 3 T's, one of them is threaded, a threaded adapter, 2 elbows, and wooden dowel, binder clip, and I'll go into all the details right now. So I'll bring this thing down here a little bit lower. What it looks like is this. So I got this little fixture on the top, and there's a base, an upright, and we'll just talk about each one and how we made it. These little cardboard targets are awesome for if you're at your house and you want to hang some targets around because the distances are pretty small, so you can run some lasers. And I got them off of Amazon. In fact, somewhere down there is an Amazon shop, and these reduced IPSC targets, orange on one side and not orange on the other, are there. So if you want to buy some, you could get those and use my affiliate link, and I'll get like this tiny little sliver of kickback from it because it's Amazon, so it's a tiny little sliver. We'll talk about the attachment when we get to that. But to make said target stand, I took a 10-foot section of PVC, which was like $4 something at Lowe's. I shop at Lowe's for that kind of thing because they give a veterans discount all year. Home Depot only does it on Veterans Day and maybe like Independence Day or Armed Forces Day or something like that. They do an active duty discount all year round, but Lowe's hooks up vets all year round. So even if I wasn't looking to save 10%, just thanking them for saving me 10% the rest of the shit that I buy. So I took that, cut it in half. So I take a 5-foot section, that's my upright. Take the other 5 foot, and I cut it into 5 1-foot sections. And then I take one of those and cut it into 6-inch sections. I cut it with this little handy dandy, I think it came with our PEX stuff when we were remodeling the kitchen. But it cuts half-inch PVC just fine as well. Some of the joints are glued together, and some are just friction, and that's on purpose. When I glued it, I got this stuff like the primer, the cement, and that's what I used to glue it together. And now I'll show you piece by piece what we made. So we did legs. So this is a 1-foot piece, a 1-foot piece, and a regular old friction fit T. These two are glued together. Obviously that one is not, on purpose. And we made 2 of those. Kapow! So 2 legs. Then what I needed was a piece to go in between them. So I took them 2 6-inch pieces and I put them in the T that has the 1 threaded fitting. That'll come in pretty important here in a second. but I glued the other two in so it won't come apart at that location. So this is the middle of my H. And I don't know if you noticed or not, but there's like green tape here and green tape here, like around that. That's because I have a teenager who I sometimes give tasks to at class, like, hey, go put those together and put them in that bedroom, and I'll get to them later. And if they were color coded, it would be easier for him to make them, even without instructions. But these are just friction fit. And now we have an H. So that piece done, we moved on to the upright. Now this upright is a full 5 foot, because I'm 5 and some change. Not a lot of change. With a fitting glued on the end. However, I normally would do these a little shorter, not because of the height of the target, but because I need a 4-inch piece for that little piece I'm going to show you in a minute. I just had some leftover PVC from when we were redoing some remodeling here at the house, so I cut those out of that little stub. But I would cut it off the 5 foot piece. But I took a fitting that is threaded, male threaded on one end, and I glued it on there. So this screws into the base. The reason I didn't want it friction fit is because when you put it in, you screw it. Now when I want to move the bases somewhere and I pick it up to move it, it doesn't come out, especially if the leg gets like under the couch or something. It doesn't just pop out because of friction. And there's a joke in there somewhere about once it goes in and out a bunch of times, and a hot dog in a hallway, or my ex-wife, or something like that. But so the screwing this one in makes it a little more portable when you move it around, because it's the only one where you're pulling directly against the joint. The rest of them are perpendicular to the joint, transverse, something, some big fancy word. So then this screws into the base. At the very top of that, I made this little crack pipe looking thing. I don't even know if this looks like a crack pipe, so, you know, forgive me. The threaded end of the upright had red tape on it, and the other end of the upright has blue tape on it. Like, still sticking with the color coordination. So this goes on the top and sits like so. Gives me an elbow to put my wooden dowel in if I want to go with a wooden dowel, or I have another target that I use on this as well. So the wooden dowel looks like this. I think it was a 7/16 wooden dowel, and I just screwed a binder clip fast to it to hold onto cardboard targets. So this can just drop in there, and now I can put a target in it. And it hangs out away from that upright. You could just drop it in the upright and that would work just fine. However, the advantage that doing it this way has, I can, if I choose to not have the upright directly behind the heart of the target, I can put this in here and turn it so that the upright is not behind the cardboard where all the rounds will hit it. That bottom stand, being that the two sides are friction fit, gives me the option to adjust the angle of how I want the stand. So, you know, hands, look. So I can hang it like out of a bathroom with the guy just peeking out or whatever. The other advantage here, I'll show you in a second, for the other targets, I need that offset so that it does allow me to rotate a little easier. But if you didn't want to make the crack pipe piece, you wouldn't have to. You can obviously put this forward a little bit so that it's actually in frame maybe. You can do a cardboard target like this guy right here, full size. This one we use the Tremis Dynamics Dwarven target template to mark a heart, eye box, and the lungs. So you could hang a full size guy on that as well, rotate it as need be. So full size targets, miniature targets, those work fine too. But the main reason that I wanted this hook was so we could make a bunch of these three-dimensional targets that Jay Gibson designed with the balloons. There's a video around YouTube's here somewhere of how to make these things. So now they're three-dimensional and they hang from the balloon. So when you shoot the heart, you get a hit on heart, it drops to the ground. So you're shooting your bad guy to the ground if you get a solid heart hit. And then they hang on this, and that offset gives them enough room to hang freely instead of hanging it just on an upright where it would lay flat and not have all that oddball movement that I like to have on my targets. So it bouncing around makes it harder to track, and I like that. So then you just got to get a hard hit and the guy drops to the ground. So that's why I have that little offset piece, and it works for the cardboard targets as well. So some thought went into that. In the end, it literally was like $10 worth of parts to make one. So we got like a half a dozen of them to use at class this weekend. Now the only concern is depending what you're using to shoot them with. Now obviously this system works great for something like a SIRT gun, or maybe if you're running a Blackbeard. Obviously that would be perfect, but you can also run airsoft if you've got an airsoft gun, and you can certainly do UTMs. Now, the UTMs, a little more potent than the airsoft. The rifle rounds a little more potent than the pistol rounds, and they have high velocity. They have two different velocity UTM rounds. The higher velocity ones for rifle, there are no high velocity pistol, but the rifle ones have a higher velocity version that are not man-marked. They're not meant for shooting people or close distance. Those got a little more zing on them. So the concern is, round goes through, hits the upright, breaks the upright. If it pokes a hole in it, that's great. If it breaks it to the point where it's broken, in the tools that I take to the range all the time, including the shoot house, I now took a bunch of these 70-cent half-inch couplings and that PEX tool. So if it gets broken, I will simply cut the broken part out, put the coupling in, put the pieces back together. Now we have a field expedient fix. Once we leave the range, come back to the shop, I will take the glue and glue that in so it's permanent. So now we've got a field expedient fix, a permanent fix, and it's up armored in that spot. So that'll get us through any issues that those higher velocity target rounds from UTM would cause. All in all, for a $10 target stand, it breaks down. I can throw it in the truck. I can probably fit 100 of them in the truck. I'm not buying 100 of them, but pretty badass little setup we got here for just a couple of dollars. Super lightweight, super small, and works for everything but live fire. If you want to make your own, feel free to watch the video again and pause at different spots, or shoot me a message at some manner and I will hook you up with the info. That's what I got. Take it easy. Have you guys tried these things? They're awesome. Perfect to go fishing with.